I want to first start off with, in the past couple of years, we've seen at least a dozen PLA officials and high-ranking government officials get purged as part of this effort from Chinese President Xi Jinping to manage corruption. Let's first start off with painting a picture. How big of a problem is corruption in the PLA?
Corruption is a very large problem within the PLA. It's a systemic issue, and it's related to the PLA being a party army, not a national army, and lacking that national sort of character of being nonpartisan, being as apolitical as possible, means that it loses various checks and balances that make a military even more ready because it's not focused on engaging in very deep politics, right? So having an independent judiciary within the military, inspector generals, meritocratic promotions as much as one can have. Those are all things that get impacted by not having corruption, or rather are products of not having a corrupt system. And whereas the PLA doesn't have all that because it is a part of the CCP itself, and the CCP itself has a lot of issues that are systemic related to corruption.
So let's talk a little bit about the operational side of corruption in the sense of how it affects planning. Of course, when we look at, it looks like a good number of these corruption cases are coming from the Eastern Theater Command. Want to get your thoughts on how that affects planning in terms of a Taiwan contingency. Why is getting rid of corruption in that theater level command so important for operations around Taiwan?
So to answer that question, I want to separate the theoretical versus what has actually happened in practice. In theory, Xi Jinping and other members that high up within the CCP, as well as anyone that's leading the PLA, CMC, and whatnot, they should want to make sure that that command in particular is not only loyal to Beijing, right, and make sure that they're loyal to the party itself, but they have minimal issues so that they could go ahead and have the readiness and the capability at the tactical, operational, and strategic levels to do whatever they need to do related to a Taiwan or East China Sea contingency. That said, separating the theoretical versus the practical, I do think some of the issues that you've seen related to Eastern Theater Command show that there are concerns that Xi Jinping or other people that are high up in the party have related to going into the fourth term, right? So even though in theory that particular command should have a better grasp on corruption so that they can execute Taiwan contingencies, East China Sea contingencies and whatnot in a better way, there are still issues that they have within it because people that are higher up in the party might not fully feel comfortable with certain commanders, leaders, and whatnot being close with other potential rivals or other figures that could be viewed as potentially usurping or undermining Xi Jinping's sort of control within Beijing.
And is there a specific branch within the PLA that maybe more corruption cases are popping out more than others?
I can't name any specific sort of stats off the top of my head, but I can speak to some of the recent cases with the PLA rocket force, related to having water being used as a fuel instead of actual, gas or whatever for weapon systems, right? I mean, that's a huge example of where corruption and readiness and the idea of wanting to save face for those commanders potentially, or just not want to explain any of the problems that they might have, undermines the readiness to be able to execute missions related to the area of operation or the area of responsibility for Eastern Theater Command related to a Taiwan contingency or something related to East China Sea or anything tied to Japan.